Everyone, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I'm Chris Lestrino, founder and CEO of Kingscrowd. We're really excited to have two terrific founders here with us today, Chris and Jenny Stanchak. They are the founders of Loveseat, basically an e-commerce provider for selling furniture from your own home. It's a really interesting business. It's a company that we've rated a top deal twice now. They did their first raise on WeFunder about a year ago and are now back doing another raise with an interesting pivot in the business model and are doing really, really well. So we're excited to have them both on today to get your questions answered about investing in the company. So with that, Chris and Jenny would love to kind of kick it off and have you guys just give a little bit of background about yourselves and about Loveseat.
Great. Hey, I'm Chris Jenny. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Loveseat. I'm a Philadelphia native, now living in San Diego. This is actually my second startup. The first company I started is called Ticketleap, which is an online ticketing platform. Started that right out of college. I went to Wharton undergrad, started that company, then we sold it. And then right after that, started Loveseat with Jenny.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Jenny Stanchak. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Loveseat, so I handle all the tech and payment side of things. I got my software engineering start as employee number 7 at Venmo, and after then started Loveseat with Chris, and have built the majority of the tech platform. All of it.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, just quick background on Loveseat and what we are. We're a managed marketplace for selling furniture and home decor. We operate in Southern California right now, just in San Diego and Los Angeles. And our sales format is a weekly online auction. All the inventory we sell is on consignment, so it's given to us by people who need to sell their things. And it's similar to eBay, but in a sense, it's completely different because all the bidders and all the sellers are local. So in San Diego or in Los Angeles, and the venue right now is 100% our warehouse. So basically people are bringing things to us and we're selling them on a weekly format for them. And you might be wondering, like, why is this better than Craigslist? Because, you know, everyone sells their stuff on Craigslist. Craigslist is really good for selling 1 or 2 things, and even that sometimes is painful. But our prime use case is somebody who has a whole house full of stuff they need to sell, like they're selling their house or they're downsizing. And so we take that like previously really painful process and make it really easy for people. And then we could even pick it up and bring it to our warehouse and sell it for them. And then in 2 weeks' time, they have cash in their hands. You know, all the bidders are either consumers, individuals who are looking for things for their own home, or resellers. So sometimes people buy just to sell in their own stores. So we have a great base of bidders each week who come and buy through our auction. You know, a few hundred people every single week, and we have 2 auctions a week. So you know, quite a bit of items. We're doing like 300 to 400 items a week per city, and our take rate on the transactions is north of 70%. So
wow,
basically how the business works. We do all the listings, all the photography and everything for the seller. So all they really have to do is give us the stuff, and then we give them money back.
Got it. And in terms of this bidding, so what does that look like when someone comes to the platform during these live bids? You know, how does that work? Are they seeing hundreds of pieces and having to decide really quick what to buy and what to bid on and whatnot?
Cool. So we group our auctions into events. So like an auction starts in San Diego on Thursday mornings and it ends Wednesday night. So the auction or the pieces are up for a week. So you have a week to kind of browse through the 300 pieces we have on sale, click into them to see the dimensions and a little bit about the history, see our like professional photography. And then we also host item inspection hours at our warehouse. You can come take the pieces before the bidding really gets crazy at the end. On Wednesday night, when our auction ends, we stagger the auction ending time. So kind of it starts at the top of the list of 300 and everything ends 30 seconds after each other. So if you're someone who's really interested in 10 different pieces, you don't have to be looking at 10 different places at once. You can kind of focus on things in the waterfall.
Gotcha. And in terms of, Chris, I know we've talked a little bit about this, that you guys are moving to a model where people could literally list the stuff on their own right on the website, and then it could leave their house and go directly to the buyer. Yes. So how will that process look in comparison to the current bidding process that you have?
Yeah. So basically, I guess the hardest part about selling furniture just because it's so big it doesn't want to move. It's actually moving it around. So for sometimes just getting it to our warehouse is a lot of work. And right now that's what everyone's doing. But ultimately where we can get to is where people can either sell directly out of their home. They can actually take the pictures and list it on our website and actually set up their own auction and just use us as a platform, both for managing it from a tech standpoint, doing all the payments, but also having the marketplace of all the customers, because that's really the big thing we bring to the table is all these buyers. So it's either full DIY or something in between, sort of like Airbnb, how the company actually went out and took the pictures for the hosts. So we could do that sort of thing. And so that's ultimately like where we see is our big expansion. Once we're kind of like in every market, we have warehouses everywhere, then we could actually expand out and then have people selling everywhere out of their homes. And that could just be a huge opportunity because we provide instant liquidity, which is really something that nobody has.
Sure. So basically moving yourself completely out of the process, not having to manage the inventory or do anything of that nature.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the hard thing about that process is going to be teaching them how to do it the way that works. So that's what we bring.
Right.
We know exactly how to take pictures of pieces. We know how to list them. And so just having the quality control of that. So that's something we're testing, or we're about to start testing, just to kind of like see how well people can handle that on their own and how much handholding they need from us. We're going to decide whether we're going all in that direction or whether or not we have to actually do a lot of the work ourselves. But ultimately though, we think we have the knowledge of how to run an auction successfully. So just getting that across and giving people the tools to do it, I think is the key to success.
Gotcha. So you guys have had, basically $2 million in revenue each year for the past 2 years. So as you think about 2019, 2020 and beyond, I know kind of this business model pivot a little bit is part of it, but how do you grow those revenues to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million?
Yeah. So the revenue is a little bit different than the revenue we had previously, because when we started this business, and just for folks who don't have the background, we originally were more of a traditional sort of e-commerce business where we owned all of the inventory we were selling. The part that wasn't traditional is it was furniture and it was used and we were selling it out of warehouses. But basically, because we owned everything, the margins on that were quite high. In this case, since we're selling other people's things and it's all on consignment, the margins aren't quite as high. The margins are much higher, but the revenue is a bit lower because the price point is, like I said, we have a lot of resellers who buy things from us. So basically, the revenue isn't really the same. It's really about margin. Is how we look at it. But basically, how do we blow that up is really just expanding the model. Like right now, we're in San Diego and Los Angeles. There's a big market in between our two cities called Orange County, which is like just as big, actually bigger than San Diego as an opportunity. But we feel like right now, in terms of penetration and the opportunity, we really can go 10x in the markets that we're in alone. That doesn't even include expanding into all the other places in the United States. So, this business, if executed properly, can be quite a large business because it presents a whole different way of solving this major problem. It's a pain point that people have every single day. Every time they sell a house or downsize or move, or a loved one passes away and you need to deal with the estate. Like those are all real problems, and there's for today.
So in terms of user behavior, Jenny, what do you see from people who are coming to the site, who are bidding and utilizing the platform? Are they coming back every week? Is there a lot of repeat customers? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, it's actually been really exciting to kind of watch the change, in the user base, and also how that new user base changes as they learn more and more about the auction. I run all the payments, so I see every single bidder, and it's really cool as a software engineer to be so in touch with the people that are using your platform. But so what we're seeing is before, when we were a retail operation, people came to us when they needed furniture. They would need a couch and they would come to us, find the couch, but people don't need furniture that often. What we're finding now is most of the people bidding on our platform are enthusiasts. We have resellers, but we also have people who just really like antique Asian stuff, for example, or love the idea of maybe getting a new mid-century modern piece at a great deal. And so they lurk, and so we have email, our most effective email for marketing channels, email marketing, because we have this big list of people that we tell every week, hey, it's Friday, come check out our new pieces. And so they'll come back every week. So we're seeing people not only come back every week, but try out our auction, maybe place some low bids and come away with maybe purchasing a few things and then coming back the next week and be willing to like put more money down. So it's a good trend. Like they're much more sticky, and the value that they're putting into the platform gets higher as time goes on.
And do you hear any feedback from your customers about why it is that they like coming to Loveseat? Why not just go to Craigslist? Why not just go to an estate sale? Why not go on eBay? What makes Loveseat a better experience for them that they want to be a part of?
Yeah, I think it's the fun aspect of it. So it's people are a little addicted to the sort of the game of bidding. And the way we set it up, it's not just like where if you get outbid, you get an email, like everything's like a text message push. And we extend the auctions. So basically, if you can't wait until the last second to hit bid and sort of swoop an item, it actually will extend the auction by 4 minutes and give the other person 4 minutes to counter bid. So there's all these weird techniques that people do where they'll, someone will wait until there's 5 seconds left and then bid again and then let the 4 minutes run out and bid again. But it's like people are addicted to it and they get a little carried away, and that's the fun of it. And so, that we just want to keep sort of making it fun. And that's like the main difference versus an eBay, like, it's great for, collectibles and sort of commodity things like electronics and stuff that shipped across the country. But for furniture, they have really a non-existent local business at this point in time. So it's really about us versus Craigslist and OfferUp, Facebook Market, those kind of things, which, those are great for one-off transactions, but there's no like unified experience. Every time you go, it's something different. You're dealing with a different person. If you're a seller, you have people trying to lowball you. You have people trying to scam you. You have to have a lot of phone calls for every single item you're selling, or text messages. And then, as a buyer, you have similar experiences. And with us, like, what you're getting every single time. And we give you the chance to come in and see it in person. As soon as we open the doors, there's like a lot of people coming into our warehouse, coming to see these things, and sort of something to do that they do every single week. So like, I think the regular cadence of it is like a key thing that everyone's just like a little hooked on it now in a good way.
Sure.
We're not trying to get them carried away. We really enjoy it.
Yeah. And what does the buyer look like?
Yeah. It's a mix of people. I'd say like the average customer is sort of, basically not like, I'd say like 40 plus, I'd say is like the average age. People who kind of appreciate the types of things that we have, but we have young people as well. Like it's a mix, and there's a lot of resellers. So there's a lot of people who just like are on the hunt, who are looking for things, and they see a piece and it's a really great deal and it's only $50, and then all of a sudden it's $1,000 and they're still bidding on it. So. But yeah, I'd say like that's the average customer. It tends to be sort of like middle. What's the term? Like 50, 40, 50 years old. I would say the average person.
Gotcha. And in terms of expansion markets, based on what you've seen from the types of customers you have, where do you think are kind of the next best places to grow to?
Yeah. So one of the things we're doing, like I said, like Orange County, it's pretty obvious. We get a lot of buyers from there already and a lot of sellers from there. So we're constantly having our trucks drive from San Diego to Orange County or from LA to Orange County, which is like a bit of a lot of effort when there's really the market's right there. So we should just have like a location there. So that's where we're going to go next. It's just obvious. But then after that, like we've looked at the data out there on like estate sales, which is like, that's another alternative way that people sell like a house full of stuff. And just like looked at, okay, where are all the estate sales happening? And it's not necessarily like an obvious, like, hey, we should go to San Francisco next or Sacramento or something regional. There's other states where there's like a high concentration of estate sales happening, where you could like have like a nice like geographic effect. So that's kind of where our heads are at. And like the point of this round of funding for us is really to kind of like completely prove it out in this, Southern California market that we're in, be a profitable business, open up that third market in Orange County, and then go raise like a bigger round of funding to go expand it out to these other markets, and have the resources to do that.
And one of the things that I know you've talked about is not, you don't want to be the logistics provider. Essentially, you'll use other third parties to manage actually shipping this stuff. Yep. So why that decision? How does that make you more efficient? And is that a scalable solution?
Yeah. So basically, like when we started out back in the old version of what we were doing, we did all the deliveries ourselves. And we had like a full sort of like white glove delivery with the guarantee on your item. If you bought something online and you got a table and it got to your doorstep and you're like, oh, I don't really like the color of that, we would just give you your money back. Which is an amazing customer experience, but at the same time it's super expensive to run. And being an auction, it's a much more high-paced business. There's a little more risk being a buyer in an auction because you need to kind of like buy at your own risk, and you need to do the inspection yourself and make sure you're happy with it because all sales are final.
Sure.
You have another like 300 items coming right through right after that. And so for us to do the delivery piece of that, you could have a discrepancy where you could say like, hey, I saw this in person, it looked one way, and now you're delivering it to me and it looks a different way. We didn't really want to be liable for that part of the transaction. And then the other thing that's been happening is there's 3 kind of companies, one called GoShare, one called Dolly, and one called Lug, which those 3 companies are doing like local sort of transportation of items, and they're doing like sort of like Uber for moving larger things.
Sure.
Truck, pickup truck drivers. And so like since they've done such a good job on the logistics of that, and the price point is like only slightly more than what we would be able to offer for people, we said, why don't we just give it to them because they're really going to become experts in this area. And so right now, like they're doing it all on the delivery side. On the pickup side, stuff coming to us in our warehouses. Right now, we're still doing a lot of that ourselves. But if there was a solution that would just take care of that side of it for us, we would love to just have to do nothing but focus on the auction, the presentation of the items and the software. That's really where we want to be.
Makes a lot of sense. So Jenny, from a software standpoint, in order to get to this place where people can basically manage the whole process on their own and kind of take you out of that process so it is a more scalable thing, what are the challenges associated with that? What do you have to build out? What does that kind of roadmap look like?
Yeah, it's a fun project, and we've already kind of started. When we first rolled out, a lot of things were hard-coded about like auctions start on Thursdays and auctions end here, and there's all sorts of different stuff that we do around notifying the participants in our auctions throughout the life cycle of a weekly auction. So what I've already done is kind of abstract that to where like you could create an auction on our system that starts at whatever time of day you want and ends at whatever time of day, and it's still going to hit all those marketing points that are so important to driving buyers, no matter, even if it's different in offer schedule. So really kind of like the main technological milestone or hurdle that we need to build out is really just the onboarding process for getting the consigners items in our system. Right now, I say there's like as much code behind the scenes of Loveseat as there is that the bidders see. There's a lot of stuff I've built out in the back end that lets our internal processing team measure items and name the items and sort the photos. So bringing all those processes to the forefront where we let like an end user do those things themselves, that's kind of where my focus would be.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And are you also hearing from sellers why they like coming to you guys and utilizing this platform rather than going to an eBay and trying to sell furniture?
Yeah, I think like eBay is sort of, there's not a big marketplace for local, like they call it local pickup only. It's like a flag on there. So there's not a lot of liquidity there for them just because they haven't focused on that. But like, again, like us versus other alternatives, like having an estate sale or using like a traditional in-person auction, where you have an auctioneer and a crowd of people. The thing that we're bringing to the table is we're getting more money for them. So because we're making it a very convenient shopping experience where like if you could be sitting at home watching Netflix and bidding on things, that's a whole different experience than somebody sitting there in an auction house. And so we're able to kind of like provide a higher price point for the seller. And so for them, that's ultimately all they care about. They just want to get as much as they can for their item. And the other thing is they just want to get it done quickly. And so we're able to move quickly, both on the selling side. And then the other thing, because of our background, Jenny's background in payments and Venmo, we're able to pay people very quickly. So basically themselves, Wednesday or Thursday night of 1 week, you get your check cut to you on Monday. And it's all automated. And, we're actually moving to an ACH based payment where they'll just go directly to your bank account as soon as the auction's over.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And from a customer acquisition standpoint, how much does it take to get someone onto the platform and utilizing Loveseat?
Yeah. So like we have we're spending very little on marketing. And so like our CAC is like pretty close to zero, to be honest. And what's happening is there's a network effect in the business. So like the more bidders we have, the more valuable it's becoming to sellers, and the more sellers we have, the more valuable it's becoming to bidders. So it's like, every new person has a better experience than the person before them. And so because of that, it's growing kind of on its own. And the other thing is there's like this cross-pollination that's happening between buyers and sellers. So you see a lot of the same people who buy things end up selling things. And so, because of that, it's just sort of like growing on its own. The next thing that is launching like really soon, like in the next couple of days, is where, so you're a consignor in the auction, you gave us 50 things to sell. Today, like you just get a report of like, here's all the things, here's the pictures of them, here's what we got for you, here's the pricing, the bids that we got. What we're doing now is like saying, or the thing that's coming is, hey, your items are now live. Here's a link that you could share on your social media that is like a mini auction of just your things. So you could share with your friends so they could see your things on Facebook or whatever and click over to our website and just see your little like mini catalog.
Yeah.
And then, if they want to see the rest of the auction, they can. But that's sort of like to kind of, because we have a dual incentive, like they have an incentive to sell things, and if they can help promote the auction, that helps us, that helps them. And so we're giving them the tools to do that.
Got it. And while your revenues have remained relatively flat over the past couple of years, can you give us any insight into how the user base has grown over that time?
Yeah, well, I think we first started out, we were getting, like 150, 175 people in an auction. Now we're getting like 275, 300 people in an auction every week.
Wow.
And those numbers are just ticking up every single week. And so that's the main thing we're looking at. And then in terms of like a user base, like an email list and things like that, like, we have tens of thousands of people on our list in the markets we're in. And that just keeps growing. And so, that's the other piece of it that we keep an eye on.
Gotcha. And so as you think, 5 years out for this business, where do you see it, and what's kind of the exit strategy for investors?
Yeah, I think we're delivering like an entirely new shopping experience, entirely new selling experience that nobody's done before. And so I think like auctions have been kind of like a forgotten area of e-commerce because eBay, is sort of like viewed as like an old name and an old experience. But like for certain things, like auctions are perfect. Like, so we feel like for furniture, auctions are perfect because furniture is one of those things like when you don't want it, it's almost worth nothing to you.
Right.
And you'll pay a lot of money for it. And so an auction experience really kind of gives like equilibrium pricing. And so basically because of that, and we see that can apply to a lot of other different areas of like large items that don't move, between markets easily. And so, we think this could be a huge business. And in terms of, where we think we're going to be in 5 or 10 years, like I think one of the major e-commerce players would be interested in sort of owning this model. And we think there's definitely like, because of the network effects, there's real like moats in the business in a sense that like, owning the buyers or having that huge base of buyers is like the real sort of differentiator that we're going to have. And then that plus the great software.
Gotcha. So one question coming in from the crowd is basically curiosity around what types of furniture sell the best. Are there certain pieces or things that people seem to like the most?
Yeah. I mean, I could start by saying the things that are the hardest to sell are like things like giant china cabinets. It's just something that like people generally don't have the space they used to have. Like, things that someone spent $10,000 on back in the day, or we'll be lucky to get $50 for something like that. But the things that it's really interesting, unique items, things you can't find anywhere else, like non-traditional pieces, and that includes like categories such as like mid-century modern, Asian furniture, like anything that's retro, industrial, like things like that. People go crazy over, and also even like newer, like contemporary things. Where like, we'll sell a sofa and it's $500 and it's like, wow, that really feels like a lot for us to sell at an auction for a sofa, but really at retail, that particular sofa is like $3,000. And so,
Gotcha.
So like the newer things as well, like contemporary, nice furniture goes for a lot. But we're seeing like everything. Like someone sold a surfboard in our auction last night for $200. So it's just like the most random things. And, as long as, and all you really need is 2 buyers to get a great price on it. So.
That's awesome. Jenny, another question coming in from the crowd is, as kind of the CTO and leading all of the development efforts, who else is on your team and what additional resources do you need to kind of continue to build out the product?
Right now, we're a team of one.
Nice.
So
Very efficient.
when we mentioned at the beginning of the call that I built the whole platform, I built the whole platform. You know, we have, if you look at other, you know, people trying to do online auctions out of there, a lot of people use third-party software, and we're lucky kind of with my software engineering background that we can make Loveseat run the exact way we want it. You know, when we were building out the auction, we drew a lot on our own personal experiences of being a buyer at online auctions when we were buying for our earlier retail business. So we kind of crafted it the way that we thought would be a great way to run online auctions for furniture in particular. But because we do all the development in-house, we're able to kind of, as we gather more data from how the auctions are working, like feed those back into the platform. You can't do everything with one person at one point, you know, especially as we're growing out. I've had experience working with more software engineers, but right now it's me.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
Venmo, the team there was, you know, like 15, 20 people.
Yeah, 15 engineers working together.
Yeah, but that was right before they got purchased. So it was like,
Sure.
still do a lot with a small group. And
Yeah.
she did all the fraud management and all of that for Venmo, and they used that all the way through PayPal buying them. So it's like, you know, so she built that whole system.
No, all you need is one smart, awesome, talented developer and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah, she's a 10x developer.
Yeah, I could see that. No, that's awesome. So in terms of another question that came in from the crowd is, look, if I don't live in LA or if I don't live in one of your markets, can I still partake in these bids? Or is that not even allowed? Am I kind of blocked from it?
Yeah, technically you can, but you just have no way of getting the items. And so like if there's something you really, really want, you're willing to spend a bunch of money, there's companies that will, like, you know, they're kind of logistics companies that will ship larger things. But for the most part, you know, that doesn't happen. So you just have to wait till we get there.
Awesome. And one last kind of fun question here. So as a wife and husband founding duo team, how do you find it managing business and being a husband and wife?
We also have 2 toddlers.
Oh my God.
It's the easiest thing in the world. No, I mean, we just like, there's positives, there's negatives, but there are the positives that far outweigh them. And in the sense that you kind of like, the way we can plan things out together is something that nobody else can do, in terms of like, you know, being able to sort of understand what the other person is thinking about, what needs to be built and how it should work and what the customer experience is like. And then being able to be efficient with, you know, we don't have to have a lot of like crazy meetings and all that stuff. So it's just
Walking the dog is a meeting.
Yeah,
Every day.
yeah. Spaces in between, I guess, is like what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we celebrated our 9th marriage anniversary yesterday. So we've been together with each other.
Congrats.
And one of the keys to success has been kind of realizing how we both work as individuals and kind of making sure we could both have our own working styles while getting all those benefits of like, I know him and I know what he's, you know, what he thinks in a good product. And it cuts things shorter when you already know what they think.
Yep.
I feel like it's really lucky that you have a software developer and a business person in one family. That's pretty awesome. It's like you brought all the resources you needed to get a business off the ground. That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. For everyone who is watching, you know, the reason that we're bullish on this company is an extremely experienced founding team, a large market with an unmet need, interesting differentiators to any of the other bidding platforms that are out there, and definitely intriguing exit opportunities for the business with the traction that they're finding right now. And it definitely, from a business model perspective, is scalable, and they're finding ways to make it even more scalable. So really, really appreciate what you guys are building and think there's a huge opportunity here. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Have an awesome day, and thanks everyone for joining. Take care. Bye.